Hi, welcome to an episode of Wren Gets Angry, a new series I'm doing about the exploitation of working people and the systems and laws that enable that. Let's start off. This is from Tumwater Washington, January 23rd, 2024. A 16-year-old boy was using a walk-behind trencher on a job site in LA Center to dig a channel for fence posts this summer when he was dragged underneath the blade, causing injuries so severe that he lost both legs to amputation. After a safety and health investigation, the Washington State Department of Labor and Industries, L&I, has cited and fined the company he worked for in connection with the incident. Rochke LLC, the Vancouver, Washington construction company that sent him to operate the machine without supervision or adequate safety measures, is facing more than $150,000 in fines. $150,000 for a 16-year-old losing both of his legs on a machine that he should not have been operating. Let's read some more. Minors using prohibited equipment on the job. The young worker was participating in a work-based learning program that allows students to earn credit and gain experience working outside the classroom. Washington's youth employment laws identify prohibited duties for workers under 18 years old. Rochke had a student learner exemption, permitting minors to do some work that is otherwise prohibited. But the use of the walk-behind trencher was not part of the exemption. In the aftermath of the incident, L&I issued an order of immediate restraint to stop work and suspended the learner-student exemption. This tragedy should never have happened, and this young man's life will never be the same, said Craig Blackwood, Assistant Director for L&I's Division of Occupational Safety and Health. Employers with young workers should look after our children as they would their own. When they fail to keep a young worker safe, it's a violation of the community's trust. In total, L&I's Safety and Health Division has fined the company $156,259, the maximum penalty available for allowing employees to operate equipment without appropriate training or experience. $156,259. Let's talk about that. So OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Authority, I believe that is what OSHA stands for, is supposed to prevent shit like this from happening. It very often doesn't. I worked at a job site for more than half a year that had flagrant violations of OSHA, and it's environments like this where there is very seldom accountability, and when there is a case so egregious, such as this kid losing both of his legs, that they have to have some type of accountability through the government institutions, it is an amount that, in my opinion, is so laughably small that they may as well not even bother. This is a construction company. They're likely making millions in revenue per quarter. At the very least, if you're employing 20, 30 men on a job site, you're pushing that in terms of revenue at the very least. And the maximum amount by statute that they can fine them is $156,000. Now, this kid is very likely going to get disability through Social Security. Because he's under the age of 20, it'll likely be based off his parents' work credits that they've already paid into Social Security, so he'll probably get SSDI and be able to have a somewhat decent life in the disability system. But this is going to cost taxpayers millions of dollars taking care of this guy for the rest of his life. We should be doing that. He should be taken care of. That's the bare minimum. But for the government to then be collecting $156,000 from the company that is responsible for putting out American taxpayers millions of dollars taking care of someone that they've crippled for no good fucking reason, for us to be collecting $156,000 is ridiculous. This kid is likely going to be getting Medicaid or Medicare. I have a friend who is a lower leg amputee. He lost it in Afghanistan right about here, and he has a prosthesis which has an ankle that is able to bend, so he's able to walk without limping. That prosthesis costs his insurance $70,000, and a prosthesis is good for anywhere from 2 to 5 years at the most. So this kid has lost both of his legs. I would expect bare fucking minimum for him to get the same quality of prosthesis as my veteran friend. Like, come on. this is going to you're looking at like over a 30-year period. This kid's 16. We're looking at this on more sort of a 60-year period, but over a 30-year period, assuming no inflation, nothing else changes, we're looking at probably about $1.5 million, maybe $2 million to pay for prosthesis for this kid, which he deserves. This is insane. This is just absolutely insane, and it's things like this that often expose how our laws have, one, not caught up with inflation, but even when they were in line with inflation back in the 70s and 80s for a lot of these fines against these construction companies and other businesses that are exploiting and endangering their workers, it's just completely inadequate. This kid is likely also going to get compensatory and punitive damages. He's probably going to sue in civil court, and he's going to win with any jury he gets in with. But it should not be on the onus of this kid suing in civil court in order for this company to be held to account. From my perspective, the bare minimum that this fine should be for a kid losing both his legs is $10 million, because that very likely represents what the cost is that the state is going to incur taking care of this person. It's ridiculous. You see across the board that when it comes to speeding tickets, when it comes to anything that you or I do, we are able to be fined an amount that is often financially disabling for people. A ticket of $400 or $500 really fucks a person's life up for a solid year or two, who is living paycheck to paycheck, which is a lot of people. And when it comes to holding corporations accountable, we sue them for an amount or fine them for an amount that is so laughably small, it's offensive. It's an environment like this that encourages and lets companies exploit green workers and exploit people who are fresh on a job site. I'm going to talk about my own experience now. I actually worked at a CNC factory for a bit over half a year of my life. I was the parts washer, and for my duties that I was getting paid $13.50 an hour for, my responsibilities were to clean the parts output of the entire factory, to get the metal shavings from the machines and take them to the centrifuge, to empty those metal shavings into containers to spin in the centrifuge, take that from that, load that onto the forklift, take that out to the... Oh, I wasn't certified, by the way, with OSHA. I was just operating that forklift with zero experience or training. They let me do it. And I needed that job, and I thought I was going to die if I didn't fucking keep it, so I did that. And then I would take it out to the storage container, compact it all, and I was also responsible for building the pallets that held the metal shavings that the company would then recycle. I remember, like... Oh yeah, I was also responsible for mopping all the floors of all the grease and stuff from the machines at the end of the shift. And I was doing this from 6 a.m. to anywhere from 4 to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday, without much of a break for months. And I slipped and fell a couple times on that job site. One time I got a piece of metal shaving, got boop right into my cornea, and I had to be driven to an optometrist in the middle of the workday so that they could pull this like metal piece out of my eyeball. And then I finished my shift. And then I worked 2 hours and finished my fucking shift, and I didn't take a day off the next day. That's fucking ridiculous. The amount of OSHA violations going on at this workplace was fucking insane. Outside of the fact, look at me. Look at me. I'm 5'8". I weigh 150 pounds on a good day. They were having me do the work of a fully grown man who had been on the job site for 10 years. And they were, honestly, probably more than that. They were having me work 3 jobs as an 18-year-old. I have pre-arthritis in my fucking back, and I have hip issues in my left hip I'm probably going to have for the rest of my life because of slipping and falling on the job site, and because of overexerting myself and having to lift weight that an 18-year-old should not have to do. This kid was 16. This kid was 16. I'm sure that if they were able to, they'd have him doing the exact same shit they had me doing. And I was working in situations where I could have lost a fucking hand pretty easily as well, working that centrifuge. There were not safety protocols in place in a lot of things. You could just lift the lid up off the machine while it was spinning at full fucking speed, and just boop, there go your fingers. And I was working with chemicals that it said on the, like, warning label. I remember I read through, they were like, oh, if you'd like a list of the chemicals, materials that we're working with, you can find this in the folder in the office. So I dig out, go to the bottom of the fucking filing cabinet, get the fucking folder, and I look it up, and this stuff that's like a petro, like, byproduct that we're working with, that's aerosolized, that I'm spraying off with my fucking compressed air gun, that gets aerosolized, that I'm breathing in for 9-10 hours a day at least, is neurotoxic. It's neurotoxic. It causes conditions like Parkinson's. And so I was working this shit being like, fuck, I'm poisoning myself. Oh, by the way, I was not given adequate gloves either to work with this shit. I would just be reaching my hands into vats of this shit. Soaks into your skin, by the way. Never had to moisturize, but I'm sure I'm gonna fucking be kicking myself for that in 40 years. But they wouldn't even let me wear a mask. They wouldn't even let me wear a respirator on the job site, because they were so, like, anti-mask and, like, so hyped up on this COVID conspiracy garbage that wearing masks is for Democrats and for pussies. And so me wanting to wear a respirator for, like, toxic chemicals I'm working with was denied by my supervisor. I got fired from that job. That's how I ended my fucking working there, is I got fired for that job. And I never reported them to OSHA. You want to know why I didn't report them to OSHA? Because it would put me in a situation where it would harm my reputation. There's lumber mills in this area, there's CNC mills, there's other industry jobs that I might need to be working in the future. And because I was the only person that had quit or got fired recently working that job, I knew that if I reported it to OSHA, that they would know it was me, that would spread around the small town that I live in, and I would have a very fucking hard time getting a job at an industry job going forward in the future. So I never reported them. They're still operating just like that, probably about half a mile away from where I'm sitting recording this video right now. I don't say shit. None of my fucking business. Who wants to be the person that kills small business in your town? But, like, I don't care. I don't care about the consequences for these companies. It should be as punitive as is possible. There should not be a cap on the money that you can get for malpractice against a doctor. There shouldn't be a cap on the amount of money that you can get from workplace comp and from finding these companies who are endangering their workers, because there's a power imbalance there. There is a power imbalance where the worker is at a massive disadvantage, and you need the threat of these massive fines that can cripple a company in order to level that playing field even a little bit. Even a bit. It's ridiculous. I don't care about companies closing down. I don't care about firms having to restructure. If you do shit like this, your company does not deserve to exist anymore. If a kid loses his legs, your company does not deserve to exist anymore. And the government is entitled to recuperate the money that it is going to have to spend taking care of the worker that you crippled. That's about all I have today. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Wren Gets Angry. Take care.